Welcome to the Corazon Chronicles, the podcast that dives into the captivating stories of Latinx and BIPOC people who've triumphed in the realm of love and relationships. On this show, we're unraveling the secrets behind successful relationships and discussing how our unique blend of culture, heritage, and personal experiences shape our love stories.
Through engaging interviews and insightful conversations, the Corazon Chronicles celebrates the diversity and resilience of love. We're diving into topics like communication, trust, sex, intimacy, and personal growth to help you navigate your own romantic journeys.
Whether you're single, in a relationship, or just a hopeless romantic, this podcast will inspire you with real-life stories of people who are forging their own paths in the realm of love. Join us on this heartfelt exploration as we uncover the keys to thriving in partnership.
Catch new episodes of the Corazon Chronicles each and every Wednesday and embark on a transformative journey that celebrates the triumphs, challenges, and enduring power of love. Welcome back to another episode of Corazon Chronicles. In today's episode, we're getting into toxicity and why it's attractive. Also, our own personal past relationships, and we're going to identify the toxicity, like the toxic characteristics of each one and kind of see what we're attracted to and why that was attractive.
I'm already triggered and we haven't even started this conversation. Oh God. Where do we start, babe? Where do we start?
I don't know. I think that just given the age difference, I think that you've probably been in more serious relationships than I've been. I think my number would be 3 total. So
mine's 4.
Okay, so then you go, I go, and so on.
Okay, so since you've outed me in the fact that there is an age gap here, maybe let's talk about that.
No, we're gonna save that for the face reveal. They have to wait for that.
All right, so my 4 relationships were my high school boyfriend, who was my first boyfriend, and that was at 15.
As it should be.
15 to 18. And then I went off to college and had one boyfriend that we dated like a year and a half. And then the second boyfriend, which ended up becoming my husband.
Hey.
And so now you're number 4.
Okay. Which is ironic because I am the 4th.
Yes, you are.
Maybe that's too revealing.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe we cut that out.
Okay. No.
Okay. So you've had 3 relationships. So what time span has this happened for you?
Right. So my first one was high school as well. I was older. So I think I was 16. She was 14. I know that she was a grade younger than me. So, but anyway, so that was the first one. That was like 2 years. And then fast forward, I'm 20. And that's my second relationship out of 3. And that one lasted like 6.5 years. And then the third one, which is the most recent, and that one was a COVID relationship. So shouts out to all you guys out there that have experienced, either ongoing COVID relationships or toxic as fuck, COVID relationships, because that was a very special time for all of us.
That was a thing, apparently.
Oh,
like, I know several
yeah.
people who got into relationships specifically, I think,
Oh, yeah.
because it's like, if the world's going to end, I don't want to die alone.
Well, if this doesn't tell you how COVID affected it in the first place, this specific ex was a neighbor of mine.
Oh, fuck.
That we met about 3 months into COVID at the pool of the apartment complex, because everything, it was shut down. So
yeah.
Anyway, so that one was like 2 years and some change.
Okay. So for me, I definitely will say that I'm a serial relationship person where I haven't been single for more than I think maybe like 9 months is the longest span for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like being in love. What about you?
I'm the exact same way, honestly. It's like I've always wanted to be in a relationship. I think probably that goes back to my parents' story and stuff like that. But I'm a Virgo, so I'm giving out all kinds of personal information right now, which is crazy. But anyways, yeah. So I'm a lover, right? And I love to love. I love to receive love. I love to give it, and that's always been, usually, like I think the longest I've been single in my 20s was, my God, I think the longest I've been single in my 20s was maybe 6 to 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was obviously between 2 relationships, right?
Hmm.
So, and then, um, God, yeah, I just lost train of thought thinking about the fact that I spent my entire 20s in a relationship. So,
Well, so did I.
shouts out to that.
So did I.
I mean, it doesn't mean I wanted to be a hoe, but I mean, hey, it's like,
Yeah, I mean, I met my ex-husband when I was 20, he was 21, and we were together until I was 37. So I spent almost 2 decades with the same person, which, like, looking back at him, like, first of all, how the fuck does that much time pass by? And especially when you're in something toxic. But we're going to get into kind of like how those blinders, make you tolerate shit that like you never would have thought you'd tolerate. I think for me, honestly,
he fumbled the bag. He fumbled the bag.
he sure did.
And I'm flipping and tumbling it. I'm sorry. My bad. I'm just gonna leave that in there, but I'm just gonna say
I'm here for this energy,
he
babe.
fumbled the bag, and I just gotta do my whole little thing with it. So
For me, I think honestly part of the reason why I've been a perpetual relationship person is probably not for the best reasons. I think some of it definitely comes from, I think especially as women, like there's so much pressure for us to find the person and
mhm,
be like, not be a hamona. You know what a hamona is, babe?
mm-mm.
Okay, so in Puerto Rico, and I don't know if this is like the case in other Latin countries, but hamona is like the equivalent of an old maid, was like a woman who's like past her prime and still single. And
Oh,
so she's like, oh, the leftovers. So hamona translates into like female pig.
jeez, you said leftovers. That's
Yeah,
toxic right there.
but it literally translates to female pig or female ham.
Damn.
So it's like once you've hit a certain age and you're like that last cousin or whatever that's not married, like everybody starts talking shit and they're just like, oh, well,
There's got
well,
to be something wrong.
yeah, there's got to be something wrong. She's going to end up living with her parents for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
So we definitely have that pressure, I think, as Latinas to like settle down and find your man. And I came from a household where like my parents were legitimate high school sweethearts. Like they met at 16, they got fucking married at 21. It was like they have the notebooks type story. And so I always was, I think, subconsciously on that pursuit. But I think also part of why I place so much value in being in relationships is because I was bullied as a kid. And like, for whatever reason, that made me feel like once I got that boyfriend,
Mhm.
I was
You have
desirable.
somebody's like undivided attention.
Yeah, like you're pretty enough for somebody, you're desirable. And so I think I definitely internalized that like if you're in a relationship, you are of more value as a woman. And so I think that definitely kept me like in that pursuit.
Okay, so first thing I want to dive into with that, that kind of resonated with me was talking about being the what did you call it? The
Hamona.
hamona, right? I wanted to say hamon, like I'm talking about
Well,
seasoning,
that's
but
the male version,
yeah,
I
right.
guess.
Okay, so hamona,
I
geez.
mean, I've never heard nobody talk shit about a single man who's like just playing the
Well,
fucking field.
so I was just gonna get into that.
Yeah.
So I felt a little bit of connection to that just because I am third. I
No, that's
am
fine. You can say it.
Yeah, but I am I am a younger man, right? And I've never been married and I've never had kids, right? Like not never had like a close call
You
or
dodged the
anything.
bullets of
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like never even like, you know, had any close calls or anything.
You've never even been engaged.
No, never.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had several conversations like even with my therapist about it was just like, am I damaged goods? Like
Mm.
am I like am I going to start to throw up red flags for other people? And this is obviously back when I was dating, but I was like, I think that obviously like going back to what you were saying, women have the stigma, right? So I know that as a man, having been in the dating pool at my age or whatever, I see these women that are the same age as me, and I get this underlining feeling or questioning of like, let's peel back the layers and find out what's going on in here, because like, especially if she's gorgeous and stuff, it's like, okay. And then if she's gorgeous and she can have a conversation, okay. So now we're 2 layers in. Okay. Where did this, like, where does the train fall off the rails with this? Like
Like,
this,
why is she single
yeah,
still?
like something like that. And I feel
Okay.
like people would feel the same way about me just
Uh,
because of like, how I carry myself, the way I have conversation, and how deep I am, stuff like that. So I feel like obviously everybody has their own reasonings and their own path and stuff, but I do kind of sympathize with that a little bit because it's like everybody's story is not the same. So it's like I know it might be like, well, that dude must be toxic, or it's got some type of shortcoming or something, and I don't know. Anyways, I just felt something with that. So shouts out to all you guys out there that made it this far. And there's nothing wrong with you. So don't go down that path.
No, and I think it's honestly probably fair to say that a significant amount of people kind of settle for what they have because they're afraid of like the unknown,
Mhm,
right? Like I know I definitely have done that multiple times in relationships because just like it's almost like the devil you know versus the devil you don't.
mhm.
And I think um society in general, especially now that like, I started dating again in the era of dating apps, whereas in the past, like you would just, I mean, we met in college. I met my ex-husband in college. So it was like, it is a very social environment. It's a great way to meet a lot of people. You're in fraternities and all that shit. Um, I think people just have like way less of an attention span for relationships now. And that probably contributes to why you see people that are single at older ages than maybe what we were used to seeing with our parents and
I
stuff.
mean, it goes back to what my abuelo told me a long time ago, right? And this is coming from the man that left my grandmother to be with another woman and like left the kids, like left her the house, like remodeled the house before he left while like everybody knew he was leaving. Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. Like, here's everything. I'm out. I mean, I don't even know what that must be like. But he's always had this phrase that stuck with me was that like there's always somebody else.
Mm,
And he's also had another thing where he's like, no matter how attractive the person is, there's always someone who's tired of dealing with their bullshit. Right. So
that's
there's like
fair.
these two things that I hear from him, and they're true to a sense because, like, if you look around, you do see that, you see the frustration, and like it might be the prettiest person at the gym, male or female, right? And you'd be like, man, gosh, I mean, they must have everything going on or whatever. But then somewhere in their life, somewhere in the past or whatever, there's someone who's like, I would never even go out to dinner with that person again
Mhm.
because it's like I already
There's
know.
history there
Yeah,
or some shit.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it's insane. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to like, form a whole story about who a human being is based on like a 5-second, physical
Yeah.
appearance and
That's in our DNA though. I mean,
yeah.
that's self-preservation 101,
Well, and that's how we
and that's
date too,
what
right?
judgment is. Like you have to judge a situation just like you have to judge a person. Like, I mean, our life the way it is now, we judge people based on what our current, like today, like day-to-day threats are, and our life being so soft, and it's like a nerf world now, right? So like we get to judge people based on what they wear or how they carry themselves or their whatever they do
Their social
versus,
media
yeah,
presence
like
or
versus the
whatever.
fact if they have like a fucking spear or something. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you guys just like,
It's true.
oh
Yeah, and I think in this society, women are definitely, and maybe, yeah, I definitely speak for myself, but I know other women who feel the same way, where it's like we approach men as like something that's dangerous. Like you're dangerous until you prove that you're not.
yeah.
And I think that's just kind of how the society that we live in is. It's just like women should fear men because y'all are like, the powerful sex and whatever.
Well, that
But
stems from like the caveman days too,
mhm,
and it also stems from like the Great Depression days, all that stuff too. It's like, we have to go back and actually really understand that it wasn't until like World War II when all the men were off like fighting the war that the women actually got to step up and show that they could run these factories, they could actually be
mhm.
innovative. Like that was the turning point. Like that's when we saw the lady on the poster that said you could do it.
Yep.
Like, and
Women
that
start
was and
entering the
that was literally
workforce.
what, one person ago, right? Like
Yeah.
one grandparent ago that just happened,
Yeah.
and here we are, like totally on the flip side. It's insane.
I know.
So to go back into what you were saying earlier about us choosing long-term relationships, you were talking about the bullying and stuff like that. Um, were you being bullied by, was it like
Men.
it was just men?
Yeah. And it was
So
about physical appearance
okay, and
and like
then
how I dressed.
and then did you turn that into like, I'm gonna get bad, and then like I'm gonna try to go after these, how did you come to terms with that, or did that come later on in life once like you, because I'm sure that men have come to you, I mean, just like I came to you and was like, man, this woman is beautiful. So
You're cute.
no,
But I was a late bloomer. I would definitely say that. I don't think I started like kind of finding
I don't
my
know. I've seen some pictures like when you were younger, and like not on any pedophile anything, but I mean,
I didn't feel pretty. I think one of the turning points for me was getting my glasses like not wearing glasses anymore, wearing contacts. I always like felt super fucking self-conscious about wearing
By the
glasses.
way, that is one thing I need to see you in. I've let you wear
No.
my glasses that I have for work, but I need to see you like in some like actual library glasses.
I hate wearing glasses. I feel like it definitely just brings me back to like being the fucking nerd that like no boy wanted. I'm working on the trauma, don't
Oh,
worry.
jeez.
Um
Oh, Lord.
so it was um definitely getting my glasses off, getting my braces off, and like my body kind of filling out. I definitely didn't have like a booty until high school.
Well, you definitely stopped growing in height in like fourth grade,
Yeah, I
right?
think by
So,
16 I was done. By 16 I was done. The boobs were going to be what they were going to be. The
hey,
butt was going to be what it was going to be. But I started developing a reputation for having a big butt. So my
I
nickname
mean,
in high school was J
Latino.
Lo.
Let's go.
And that I think I started realizing like, oh, we'll have something like
Mhm.
that boys want.
Yeah. That
But
made you feel good though, right? Like it gave you some boost in
yeah,
confidence,
you get
right?
some swag. I think it definitely stepped up for me like when I went to college. Like my freshman year, I was single for probably like the majority of freshman year, and I had broken up with my high school boyfriend. So it was like the first time that I got to not only like be in a completely different environment with people that I didn't have established
Right.
relationships with,
Fresh
right?
start.
So there was none of this like
Reinvent
there's
yourself.
history here. Yeah, I could absolutely,
Uh-huh.
that was college was where I found myself, where I found my confidence, just like where I got to reinvent who I was. And I definitely began to like understand the power that women have to get what we want out of men.
I swear if I was a female, I've always said this, but I swear if I was a female, I
Oh.
would no, I mean, it's literally like that movie that's like, what is it? Like Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman. I
Yeah.
would be in that. I swear I'd be in that shit so bad. I'd be out here already. I'd be 3 condos deep. I'd be 3 condos paid for deep.
Oh my god,
I
yeah.
swear.
I never thought that big, but not. I probably should have,
What do people say? What do they say whenever like are really speaking facts? They're like, yeah, on mom,
No
yeah,
cap.
on gang.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so when did you kind of start coming into like your confidence with dating? Like, do you think like you were always confident as a man, or
Well, we were talking about this a little bit earlier,
yeah?
just you and I. But that's always been. I dealt with a little bit of bullying, but whenever I encountered the bullying, obviously, as a boy, you have to fight, right? And then, after the fighting, it kind of dies down. But my being the only boy on my mom's side, which is the Latin side, and the only grandson and all that stuff. I was always told that I was a beautiful man, and I was going to grow up to be a good, strong, good person and everything like that. And so I was always kind of given boosts of confidence throughout that, and then a huge boost of confidence for me, being raised with my dad, was just always trying to like make my dad proud, right? So I played football and race motocross, all that stuff, and excelled at those sports, and um, I did the ROTC and stuff like that as well too. So I was just kind of always in these roles of like having to be confident. You have to be confident to, you know, be safe on the dirt bike whenever you're racing. Like you have to have the confidence in the bike and yourself. Same thing with football. You have to have the confidence in your team. You have to have the confidence to even wear the jersey to school. Like
Get tackled and shit. Like,
yeah, I mean, all of that just
yeah.
kind of like, comes with the territory. And then the same thing with RTC, the confidence with that as well too. But I never really dealt with not being confident too much. There's definitely certain things and obstacles that I've come across that I felt the size of like a raisin, like no
Mm.
confidence at all. Whether it was business or whatever, just life circumstances and stuff like that, things I've never been through. But
But you've never had problems getting girls. That's what you're saying.
I guess in a roundabout way. Not to be like conceited though, like not conceited. Like
I
I'm
mean,
not
he's
a
cute,
duck.
y'all.
I'm
He's
not a
cute. I'm
duck.
gonna give him his flowers because, like, you're beautiful to look at.
It's
So,
always been the conversation for me though, right? And we
but
we talked about the 3 date rule.
yeah,
The
and
3 date rule.
let's get into that. But one thing I do want to say is that I think there is uh there's attractiveness bias, right? Like some people are just gonna have an easier time like fucking dating just because of how you physically look. Do you think that because you are by society's definitions, an attractive man,
Mhm.
that it's been harder for you to find people that take you seriously because
Yes.
they just look at you like you're a fuckboy that can get
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah, that's been like the biggest battle. Especially dealing with any type of like dating apps and stuff like that, you know. And the only reason I really dealt with the dating apps is because I moved from my hometown to where we are now, to be closer to family. And then so that kind of uprooted my social network, right? In a sense, my dating pool or whatever. So I kind of had to rely on coworkers or whatever the case was. And then whenever I got out of that relationship, the first one, well, I guess the second one technically, but the first one as an adult, I mean, I was, I didn't really have a big, group of friends or anything like that. I wasn't really going out, so I had to kind of rely on those things. But that's always been a thing of like being unapproachable or not unapproachable in a. I'm a very average. I'm very, very average, but it's just like I don't know if it's like my energy and stuff. I'm very lackadaisical. I'm very open, and people can sit back from afar and see me interact with other people and see that I'm a cool, easygoing guy. Like I don't really have I don't like I don't know. I don't really have toxic energy, that I kind of, especially once I talk to people and they're like, "Oh my god, I thought you were like, this like you said,
Because you
fuck
have the
boy."
male version of resting bitch face.
Yeah, I guess, right? And it's like, I don't know, it's tough. And they're also trying to figure out like what my heritage is and stuff. They're
Mm.
like, "Was this guy fucking Saudi Arabian? Like, was he got fucking oil money? Like, what is this guy?"
So you're a mystery and people are intrigued by it.
Yeah, and then like people are afraid to come in and talk to me and stuff sometimes, and it kind of sucks because I'm so cool to talk to. I love to hear people's stories, and I love to like, kind of dive into like how people think about certain things,
You're definitely a
So
people person.
yeah, like once people get to know me, they're like they warm up and they're like, "Oh my god, like I don't even know." It's almost
Yeah.
like going off the I don't know, like I don't know. It's just like once you do something for the first time, it's like scary, and you're like, "Oh god, that's so scary." Then once you do it, you're like, "Oh my god, this is fun."
Yeah.
It's kind of like that feeling,
I've definitely gotten like feedback that I'm intimidating. Um,
How did you feel on our first day? Did you feel intimidated? I mean, obviously we had been talking and stuff like
no,
that,
I
but
didn't feel intimidated, but I think I
cool.
also like I know I'm a bag to catch, so
And what am I doing with that back?
um, you put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it.
Hey! Oh my god. Let's go, Fox. I
um,
am so here for this energy. I am so here for this.
but it wasn't always like that, and I think being divorced and like coming back into the dating game in like my late 30s, I almost feel like I had to rediscover who the fuck single Jannese was, because I don't even remember who she was. It was that long ago. And I just, yeah,
You do have a new sense of confidence about you
I think a lot of that
since
has
when I first
come
met you.
from being with you.
Hey,
Like honestly, and we've talked about how there's a lot of people who post breakup kind of go inward, right? And they just become like almost recluses, and everybody's out to hurt me, so I'm just gonna stay alone, blah blah blah. And I definitely had a lot of people like in my life who were like, "It's too early. You have to be single for a year. You can't be out here dating. You just got divorced, blah blah blah."
right.
And I felt like I had done all of the personal self development work
Mhm,
that I could do
mhm.
to heal my shit, but there was things that were not I was not gonna be able to start working on until I was in another relationship.
So how about this? The thing that came to my mind throughout what you were just saying was that we were just talking about confidence, and some people have it, right? And some people don't. And like, where do you get the confidence from? You get confidence from tackling hard things. I mean,
Yeah,
working out,
doing scary
jujitsu,
shit.
keto, dieting, all this stuff that like requires discipline. But you can actually gain a lot of confidence out of somebody loving you
Hell
for
yeah.
who you are.
Hell
And
yeah.
that's what hit me out of what you were saying was like was just that like if someone loving you and you being able to feel that sense of freedom of being your natural self around them and all just unfiltered walls down, let me be goofy, I don't even know, like people do goofy shit,
Yeah.
right? And so and to not have to worry about looking over at somebody looking at you like, what the fuck are you doing?
Mhm.
Right. And so that will instill a lot of confidence in someone who is very sheltered, or someone who
Has been
is,
hurt.
and likes to stay inside. And
Mhm.
um yeah, I think that like that's why in the last episode I was like, everybody deserves to feel love and everybody deserves to be in love, because it's such a special thing. It's not just about the sex or the dates or whatever that people think love is, that haven't really gone through love.
Yeah.
It's all the other things that come behind it. I mean, we go through it every day just ourselves. Like, we're walking out of the door the other day and we're, are the dogs fed or whatever? And it's like, yeah, I don't even know why I'm asking, because we
Got each
already
other's
have
back.
it like that.
Yeah.
And that's just, that form of love right there is, that whole situation right there is a prime example of the confidence that you gain out of a relationship. Is just
Yeah.
like, just knowing someone has your back is insane.
That's so true.
Bring you out of
And
your shell.
yeah.
And I've seen that with you. You've seen that with me.
Yeah, I think like the healthiest love will always make you be like a better version of yourself than you are alone. Right? Where I think a lot of people come into relationships with like feeling like there's a deficit that they need that other person to make up for.
Mhm.
But I think that's the wrong perspective to have. I think it's like you have to be a whole person in yourself and like have that confidence already. And then the person that you're with should amplify that or add
Right.
to it.
And for people that are like very introverted, right? I'm a huge introvert.
That what?
Hold on, but I'm saying, as far as like my physical activities, like what I like to do.
Yeah, you're a
Okay,
homebody.
I'm a homebody, and that's what I mean by introvert. Obviously I can get out here, I could sell solar panels to,
Well,
Apollo,
you also
but
love to meet random people and talk to them and shit. Like, I feel like if
yeah,
we were to go like on a cruise ship, you'd befriend half the fucking boat by the time that we
hey,
were done.
I might get off I might get off that boat with a job. Who
You're gonna
knows?
be driving the boat by the
Who
time
knows?
we're done.
Talk my way into a captain's license. You never know. But what I was really gonna say is just like the being in a relationship, um, and being introverted can give you the confidence by that person giving you the comfortability and the freedom to be able to go out and
Mm,
experience certain things.
hmm.
Like, for instance, you took me to a salsa class,
Yeah.
right? And that was in a live setting at the pier in downtown.
Hmm.
And you're like, there's this thing, it's for like 3 hours, whatever. And we go, and I mean, I was palm sweating. I
I
was
could
nervous.
see
I was
you.
tripping. I was like, fuck, I'm tripping. But at the end of the day, I'm willing to do this because I was nervous, but I was also excited. It wasn't like, oh God, I want to, like, I'm gonna fake if I'm faking that I've got like bubble guts so I can get out of this. You know what I mean? Oh my God, I need to go to the bathroom now, and no, I will not go to a CVS. But I don't know. That's a prime example for me, is just like that right there, to go out there and have new experiences and have somebody that you trust, that you're comfortable with, to go out and do things, because life is passing you by every day. And like simple things that you can do that are very low budget, and they're the best things. Like
Get you out of your comfort
when we
zone.
went to Wiki Wachi, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, it's like it's such a good time. So
Yeah. I love it.
next topic. What do we got?
Okay, so let's go back to the toxicity that we have experienced in relationships, because obviously the
Okay.
people that we were with in the past are no longer here and we are here together. So there are
R.I.P.
various reasons as to why our various relationships broke up. Okay, so my high school boyfriend was Cuban, very typical machista toxic male. And he was very controlling. So
Most Latino men are.
yeah, unfortunately, that's a stereotype that a lot of dudes from our culture like
It's
live
insane
into.
because like those, I mean, I guess it goes with the behavior, but like the men that are very possessive are also the ones that are out here fucking around. So
Facts.
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I never had instances with infidelity with him from my knowledge.
Okay.
But what happened was after being with him like for 3.5 years, I went to college, and we went to separate colleges because he was. What
Like,
was
how
it?
far away though?
Oh, it was like a good like hour away.
Okay, so my sister and her boyfriend, they've been together like since high school,
Mhm.
and they go to, I think it's like 5.5 hours, but they see each other like every weekend. So
Yeah, I think I was checked out by the time I was a senior. Like I just kind of knew the time
was he like in the
was
same grade?
ticking. No, he was a freshman. No, when I was a freshman, he was a senior.
Oh,
So
got it. And he was already in school doing his own
yeah, he
thing.
was in college while we
Oh,
were together. Like, and then I graduated, and
well, I hate to say it, but
I mean, that was never gonna work. He was just like, my testing grounds for like what it is to be in a relationship. But essentially, I went off to college. I was dorming, and he was the type of dude that would like, I need you to be in your dorm room when I call your landline phone.
I remember this.
Yeah.
I remember this. I remember this whole. Yeah, I remember this. This is good.
So
This is
that
good.
was the last straw for me. I'm like, I'm gonna be a prisoner in my fucking dorm room because this guy like literally landline. Okay, I didn't even have a cell phone because this is
Damn.
2003. And I was just like, yeah, this is bullshit. Like, who the fuck are you? I'm out here gonna live my life, and I just stopped answering the phone. Like that's how we broke up, and that was it.
So so if you weren't in the dorm, you obviously had like roommates in the dorm, right?
Yeah.
So would they answer the phone for you? I mean, because they're
No,
expecting their own
each
calls, right? Or
I
you had
think
your
we
own
each had our
phone?
own landline. So
Okay.
I think there was like two ports, and so she had her phone and I had my phone.
Did you have an answering machine?
I did.
And you just let it fill up?
Yeah.
What's the max on those things? Because
I don't
obviously, like,
fucking know.
obviously, I don't know, but
I don't know, but I stopped answering the phone at one point, and it was a wrap for me. I was just like
damn.
ghosted before ghosting was a thing.
Hmm.
But it's funny
But you
because
know what we say about those folks? Sorry to cut you
that's
off
right.
again. Sorry, you guys are gonna have to get used to me doing this. It's so
He's
bad.
very enthusiastic.
It's ah, you're a talker, I'm a talker,
Yeah.
so I listen very well, but at the same time,
Okay, what were you gonna say?
no, I forgot.
Okay,
Oh
we'll
no,
cut that whole
oh
shit
no,
out.
no. Based on his energy, so we all know on the patterns, right? If someone's very territorial or they're very, what are you doing? All that, that's like a guilty conscience,
He
right?
was super insecure.
So do you think that there's, you know,
Was he doing some shit on the side? I honestly that never crossed my mind
okay.
because I was just like, this guy's like so fucking
And you were
desperate.
checked out anyways.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was done.
So you don't give a fuck.
Really didn't give a shit. I mean, the sex was trash. He was like a fucking minute man. And this
Dang.
was like after 3.5 years, like you still can't get your shit together.
All right. I have a theory about this. I have a theory about this. Okay. All right. So, and I think most men will agree with me very silently though. But this is the thing. So it all comes down to the circumstance of the sex for a man. For a man.
What do you mean?
So a man
And last?
he has the choice. I mean, a
Mhm.
man that's in
Oh,
control of what he's got going on, right?
okay.
But a man can last, or I mean, he can fight to last. I mean, there's certain situations, I mean, Jesus, like we've been there a couple of times. Like, Jesus, I don't even know what to do about it. But it's just one of those things. It's like, so a man can last to whatever, and then there's other situations where it's like quick and quick. So the theory about it being quick, you look at all other types of like mammals and stuff like that. I mean, it's very because nature's happening, right?
Yeah,
So
there's no such thing as sex for pleasure in the rest of like
no, yeah,
the animal
I
kingdom.
mean, ducks have like corkscrew, like it's insane, it's wild. But anyway, so the patterns that I have seen and stuff like that is just like so men that are there just for the sex are the ones that are going to do that very quick, right? And the ones that are there to like that are actually connected with you and stuff like that want to like spend time on you and
Well, what if it's like just also a lack of experience too? Because we were each other's firsts.
that's cool.
Yeah,
But you guys were together for how long?
3.5 years.
Okay, so after year one, I've got my shit figured out enough to where I can like get to like number two or three. I'm like, okay, we can do this. Like, maybe we have to get the first one out of the way, but eventually we get to where we can, you build up your tolerance a little bit.
I would think, right? Like,
So
but I don't know how the male body works, so I'm gonna rely on you as the scientific expert on
I
this.
don't know. I just think that it's a telltale sign. I guess this is my point of the whole thing is that it's a telltale sign if someone's just in there, getting in, getting out, looking out for themselves the entire time, not worried about what you got going on, not
Mhm.
spending time on you and stuff
Yeah,
like that. That just all shows that they don't really have the love and affection because they're not even regarding your time,
yeah.
right?
I think that's absolutely accurate though, because I always
So
just felt like it was very non-reciprocal
yeah, he's
relationship,
like,
even like
oh, he's
emotionally and
like,
shit.
oh, let me do this,
I
let
was
me do
always just
that,
like
and
chasing him
yeah,
emotionally and shit, and he
right.
was just like, stonewalling, just like emotionally avoidant, blah blah blah. So okay, so that was that. And then my second boyfriend in college, he was not. in school. He wasn't at my school. We met on mijente.com. And if y'all know fucking mijente.com, like, let me know. This is the era of like Black Planet and like these websites where you
Wow.
create a fucking profile, and it was like the precursor to dating apps. It was kind of like
This is
MySpace.
before eHarmony.
eHarmony was 2001, so it was like right around the same time.
Oh.
Yeah. But so
What about
basically,
Christian Mingle?
I don't know.
All right.
But essentially what you would do, you would create a profile, and it would basically be like a resume, but like a personal resume, like, pictures
A
of yourself, like, this is
LinkedIn.
why I'm so fucking cool, like,
Yeah.
and you could contact each other and send each other messages and blah blah blah. And so I met him through that website. He was from the same state, so his family was from New Jersey. I went to school in Jersey,
He was
and he was actually in the
Latino.
military.
He was Latino.
He was half black, half Latino,
Oh.
but he was like raised by the black side of his family, so he didn't speak Spanish or none of
Okay.
that.
I mean, I can
And he
relate.
had a white name.
I can relate.
His last name was Stewart, so
Damn.
you couldn't even
I
tell.
would trade names with him.
But he was in the army, so he wasn't in college, and he was actually deployed. Like, this was 2001.
Was he in a rush to get married?
Wait,
Because that's what they do.
wait.
That's what they do in
Okay.
the military. I got
So
military in my family. I already know.
we
I
met,
love this.
started dating. I met his parents. Like, it was very serious for like the fact that it was a year and a half long relationship. And yes, he did ask me to marry him.
Yes.
He wanted me to drop out of school
Where
and
was
come
he
in.
stationed at though? Like, what was his?
So originally he was in Iraq or Afghanistan, one of those two. I don't remember. But
He
then
was like regular, like infantry, or like what was he
yeah,
doing? Oh
yeah.
shit!
hmm
Oh,
And he was,
shouts out to you, bro. Honestly, like, thank you for serving our country. Like, honestly, like, all jokes aside, like, you were out there, boots on the ground. So,
yeah. At
you
one point he
you're
was in Texas, and
okay.
then another point he was in Germany. So, it was a long distance relationship, obviously for
Mhm.
many reasons.
Did they ever want you to like come live on base with them and
Oh
stuff?
yeah,
Like, just uproot and just come
literally,
out
that's
there?
why he asked me to marry
Yeah.
him. And then during one visit to his base, I got pregnant, and I was like, I'm not having a baby. I'm 19 years old. Like, out of your goddamn mind.
Oh,
And I had an abortion, and he did not approve.
you did it without him
Yeah.
knowing?
No, I told him I was doing it, and he was like, no. And I'm like,
What made you like? What was the?
I'm 19 years old.
Okay,
And I'm like, I'm not fucking ruining my life.
but you didn't have like. Okay, I guess it's like one of two ways. But
Yeah, I
I'm
was
not a
like,
woman, so I don't know. But I mean,
never crossed my mind to have a baby. I was like, I'm not dropping out of school. I'm not going to ruin my life. I'm not going to be my parents' disappointment. Like, not going to do it.
so you
And
went like so you told him that you weren't going to do it,
yeah,
and what he was like, no, let's do this, whatever.
yeah,
And then you went and did it without,
yeah.
and then what?
And that was the beginning of the end. He
But you
was,
weren't like living with him, right? So you
no, he
never had
was
to
in
like deal
Texas
with
and I
it.
was in New Jersey.
Yeah, damn. So you did all that shit without even.
Nobody knew.
Damn.
I went and did the shit by myself.
Oh my god.
And then that was the beginning of the end. I ended up like mailing him back the engagement ring, and
What?
yeah, that was it. But again, it was an emotionally abusive relationship for sure. Like, there was
Like
a
in
lot
what
of
way?
like
What was he
name
doing?
calling and like,
Like you're a bitch. Like
yeah, all that shit. All of that
what were
shit.
you doing to like get that?
We would just get into like fights because I don't even fucking remember, honestly. Like,
Okay.
so much of this is like blocked out of my memory,
I
but
mean, it's like it's a minute ago. So
yeah, it was just like, I think it was definitely control type shit where it's, the same pattern of just,
so I've seen a resemblance
uh-huh,
in
yeah,
these last two. So
mhm,
let's get to this third guy.
yeah.
Not to
Okay.
speed you up, but let's see.
So
Let's
my
see what the third
ex-husband.
guy. Let's see what number 3 has behind the door.
So I broke up with the army guy like June. And I spent like my hot girl summer just fucking staying in school because I did summer classes and working and just living my life. And then the fall came around and I started getting into sorority life. Like, I wanted to join a sorority. And so I was spending a lot of time at like Greek events and step shows and all these things. And I ended up going to one and meeting my future ex husband there. Now, we didn't actually meet, I just saw him. I noticed him. And
Are you gonna get into like?
Hmm?
I guess I'll let you continue.
Okay. So this is the era of Facebook that you could only be a college student to have a Facebook account, right?
Oh,
So you had to have a .edu email address in order.
mm,
That's how Facebook started for
the
anybody who
beta
doesn't know.
years.
Yes.
Hey,
Okay, so I see him at a step show. He's like the captain of his fraternity's team. I'm super impressed 'cause I'm like, oh my God, he can dance. Like, I love that. So fucking cool. Blah. And
let's go back to the energy that you had when you first saw him, though, because I know that like that's my one thing about listening to people talk about their exes, and I'm guilty of it too. But it's like there is a lot of good that is buried underneath the bad.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I mean,
So
I thought he was super cute and like
okay, like
charismatic and
let's give
whatever.
everybody, before the bullshit. It's tough, I know, but at the end of the day, it's nice to revisit the fact that like we did once care about this person.
Yeah, that's fine. But he definitely had like fuckboy energy from day one. I happily admit that. And he presented a challenge because he was like the perpetually single dude that like a bunch of women wanted to go after and he would never fucking settle down. And I found that out just by talking to people who knew him. What? Let me tell the story. Okay? All right. So, I don't know if Facebook still does this, but back in the day, it would show you your mutual friends, right? So, because I was hanging out with a lot of sororities people and he was in a fraternity, inevitably there was some connections. So, me being la
He popped up after you saw
afrentada.
him at the step thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, this is the era of AOL Instant Messenger.
AIM.
Yes,
AIM.
AM.
Let's fucking go.
Okay. So
Oh, yes.
I want to say either I send him because people used to list like their AIM handles and shit on their Facebooks, and then you could also I think you could DM people back then or message them, whatever. But long story short, I reached out first because I've and
I'm
I've been going after shit that I want,
seeing
and you know
a
this.
little bit of a pattern here,
Shut
folks.
up, babe.
Just a
So
little
I hit
bit of
him
a
up,
pattern.
spit some game, blah blah blah. We made plans to meet up, and we met up. He came actually to see me at my dorm. So this was like no, we didn't have babe, this is in Jersey. He didn't have a car, so he took like a 2.5 hour train ride to come and see me, which I was just like impressed by. I'm like, okay, I'm here for this energy. And it was a random hookup that was supposed to just be a random hookup and ended up being me marrying him and being with him for 16 years.
Ay, que rico.
So the one thing that I noticed right away is that he was the opposite of my exes. Like he was not controlling. He was not
Lackadaisical.
yeah, he was just like whatever. He never showed any kind of jealousy about anything. And in a way, that shit kind of annoyed me after a while because I'm just like, you don't even give a fuck. Like if I was to cheat on you, you probably wouldn't even care because you're just like,
Do you feel like that way with me, though?
no.
Okay, because it's.
No, I know you would say some shit to somebody if like somebody said something weird to me
Oh, jeez.
or approached me.
I mean, how many times have I asked to be like private security? It's insane. I'm like, let me just be there. I'm the guy with the
You're
crop.
observing. You're not going to be the one to start some shit, but you will be the one to finish it.
I have pointed out so many things to you. Like, listen, folks, we're like in a crowded place, right? La Placita, something. And I'm like, look at this guy, whatever. I'm like, don't let this guy get too close. She's like, oh my God, I didn't even notice that guy. I'm like, how? Like, what are
You're
you just
always
walking around with
looking
fucking
at
blinders? This is insane.
threats.
I am the guy with the crossbody.
That's fine.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the reasons why I liked him because he was like the opposite of, my exes being controlling, blah, blah, blah.
He's like interesting and new. And
Yeah. And he was just like not.
did he give you like some type of like security feeling though?
Yeah, he like took me out on a date to New York City,
Right.
and we
That's
were
not
super young back
that's
then.
not what you experienced in your previous relationship.
No, well, I mean, it was super young too. So
Right.
like the fact
The
that this
money's
dude
not
like
there.
he's
And
like working as a pizza delivery guy and like
yeah.
scraps together enough money to take me out on a fucking
Oh,
date
let's
to
go
New
to
York City.
Carrabba's. Like,
I was just like, oh my God, like this, I'm so impressed, right? You think about just like the fucking bare minimum shit that you're like, oh my God, he's like making such an effort. But he was a year older than me, so we he actually dropped out of school. He didn't graduate.
Like high school or
No, out of college.
okay?
Like he didn't finish his
What was
last
he
year.
going for?
I want to say it was like economics,
Okay,
business or
he
something.
wanted to like own his own business then.
No, he just went to college because his parents told him to, but he really had no ambitions to do that
And
shit.
there's the animosity.
Yeah. He went to college because his parents told him to, and then what happened, he stopped qualifying for financial aid like that last year, so he just
Oh,
couldn't
because he
afford
like
to pay
wasn't
for
like
it.
making like his credits or whatever he needed to do, or
I don't know. I
okay,
never really got the full story, but basically he had to drop out and he couldn't afford to pay like the money that he owed the school, and so that was that.
gotcha.
So I graduate, we're still dating. 2 years after that, we moved in, and I
What was the circumstance for moving in? Like, were you
I
guys
needed to get
like
the fuck out of my parents' house because my
okay?
parents
So it
were
was a
driving me insane
necessity on your part.
for my mental health.
And did he have his own place this whole time?
No, he was living with his parents too.
Okay, so it was a conjoined thing.
But if you ask him now, he'll say that I forced him to move in
Oh,
and that I forced him to move away from, his hometown, and I forced him to get
oh,
married
this is
and
the
all of
move
it.
to Florida.
Well, that's before, like, we lived together in New Jersey for
Oh, so all right, so
years
you're
before
making the
that.
first move. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
so
I'm
we
sorry.
moved into our
Yeah,
first
'cause you guys
apartment
bought a house,
together. We
right?
ended up buying a house. Then we ended up moving to Florida, and all of this was allegedly like forced now, if you ask about it now. But yeah. So when did the problems start? I think very early on, I already knew he was an alcoholic, and for
For your
some,
most recent.
yeah, he was definitely an alcoholic because, like, when we were still in school, that I will never forget this incident. Um, he showed up at my dorm after like some fraternity event. He was fucking wasted, and he's like, "I'm gonna hop in the shower," and then whatever. And 15 minutes goes by, half an hour goes by, and I'm like, "Hello,
Where is this?
are you okay?" And he like passed out inside the shower. So like I bent down to look like under the door crack to the bathroom because I heard the water running and I was calling him and he just didn't say anything and the door was locked so I couldn't open it. And this was like a metal fucking door. It's not even like easy to open. So I see that his arm is like splayed out from the
Oh,
shower
oh
and
my
I'm like, this
god.
motherfucker's dead in my shower. Like, oh my
Yo,
God, right?
what the fuck?
So I called 911. The fucking
They
ambulance of
have to
the
kick the
college
door
they
in?
had to kick the door in.
Oh
They took
my
him to the hospital.
god.
They had to do like the whole detox shit. He was just like out of his fucking mind. And that was like the red flag that I ignored that would then lead to him having multiple affairs, him getting multiple DUIs, him punching holes in the wall.
So what was that like the gateway? All right,
He was
so
always an alcoholic. I
well, it
just
seems like maybe like when he fell in the shower, maybe he smacked his head. And all of a
no, babe.
sudden,
He's
he's got
been
like some
drinking
type
since
of.
his whole family is alcoholics. Yeah, so this is like a generational thing. Um, but he blamed his first affair on the fact that he was drunk. He got 3 DUIs. He actually broke his wedding ring.
I remember the story.
We got into a fight one time. I don't even fucking know about what. Probably about like random messages that I kept getting from women that were like, "I'm fucking your man." And I had bought
I
him.
couldn't even imagine. Like that's insane. Like I really couldn't even imagine. Like I really couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. So we get into a fight and I had bought him a tungsten carbide ring. So if you know anything about tungsten carbide, it's pretty brittle metal. So he took it off and he threw the ring. We had a tile floor and the shit literally cracked in half and then it hit the patio glass door.
It's
So
like a
then that
sliding
fucking
door.
thing shattered. And yeah. So that's kind of like the hallmark of our relationship was just like explosive fights, reconciliation, things are okay for a little bit and then it just goes back. So now that I know about, what it's like, what narcissism is, what narcissistic personality disorder is, the fact that I was married to a covert narcissist, I was like, "Oh wow, okay, so this is like the actual cycle of abuse that I was caught up in, but it just became so fucking normalized that I'm like, well, maybe that's just how relationships are."
You have
Um
to get into the ending though.
yeah, so okay, so the end of our relationship
Not to
now.
speed it up, just
No, there's so much though.
because you were about to wrap it up. So I'm like, no, they deserve to get the ending as well.
Yeah. Okay, so this goes on, I would say like our relationship definitely accelerated downward after getting married. So 2013. At that point, we'd been together 7 years. 7 years. And I just felt like I was continuing to progress and grow as a person, like professionally, personally, just like mindfully. Like I was just always the type of person that was working on myself and just like had goals in life and shit. And I just felt like he was super stuck.
I
You know,
mean, he was trying to be a DJ.
yeah, he started DJing in 2011 because he was like, I fucking hate my job and I'm meant for more. And, me being the supportive partner at that point, we weren't even married. I actually bought him his fucking first DJ equipment. Okay, because the man, on top of all his other bullshit, had like a 400 credit score because he never paid his fucking bills and defaulted on his student loans and got them garnished. And he was just always terrible with money. And that's why I never combined my finances with him,
Yeah.
because I'm like, you're trash with money from day one. So, but that's for another episode.
This is crazy.
It was
'cause,
so
like,
dysfunctional, but
listen, folks, there are, man,
there's really smart women who do a
we
lot of stupid things,
and
and I'm one of them.
we've as a couple, we've had these conversations, but to have the conversation again now that we're a little established, and then to look back on the things that she's saying, and then to see the similarities, I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out this. Is this like a pattern?
Well, it's definitely a pattern. I definitely have attracted people who are emotionally abusive, who
First of
have
all, I'm not in any of these classes. I'm just
no,
trying
and
to figure out.
we're gonna talk about in the next episode, like how the hell we got to a functional, healthy relationship after our own histories of not so much,
Yeah, our shit
especially
is like
mine.
way different. So
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so 2013 things definitely started to like just go downhill. 2015 was when he had the affair, the first one. 2017 was when I found out.
And that was the same girl, right?
No, this was
Oh,
somebody other than the person here. This was in New Jersey.
oh my god.
So he had affairs in multiple states.
Oh,
Wait,
geez.
and this chick was actually from California. She wasn't even from New Jersey.
Oh my
He went
god.
to a fucking fraternity thing and apparently got fucking drunk. And he had been sending her dick pics and all types of shit for months before
This
that.
is the one that
So
reached
she
out to your.
blackmailed him and was like, I'm going to tell your wife that you've been like doing this shit unless you break up with her and like go and be with me and basically have sex with me. So she blackmailed him into fucking her. Okay.
God.
So,
Wait, did you see all the proof, or is this
oh
like a
yeah.
story he said?
No, I saw, I got all the pics and all the texts and all that shit. But she reached out to my mom after he basically
She wanted to
didn't.
fuck him that bad. She wanted to blackmail him into fucking.
She wanted to ruin his life because he broke his promise to her to like end the relationship and go and be with her. I later found out she had like some sort of mental illness. I don't know if it was bipolar or some shit.
Jeez.
But yeah, the woman reached out to my mom and sent her all the fucking evidence because she had reached out to me, but he convinced me that it was just like some hating ass bitch and I should just block her and like ignore it, right? So after I did that, then she had no choice but to go and find other people who could send me the message. And that was my mom. So she confronted me about it, and then I confronted him about it, and the whole thing spiraled into just fucking chaos. We went to marriage counseling. We went on a trip to Europe to like try to fix our fucking relationship. Things were good for like a year maybe. And
What is
then
that like? What on a scale of like one being like the most toxic it's ever been,
yeah,
versus like 5 being like how it was when you guys first met? How was it that year that you just said that it was fine? Like
I
it
was
was good.
probably like a 3.
Okay.
So it never really got. You don't heal
You
from
don't.
cheating.
Yeah, you don't get over that shit.
You don't heal
No.
from cheating. I never fucking
It's
trusted him
always back
again.
there.
Every time I heard a text message
It's like a
sound
brain
go
tumor.
off,
It's a
I was
brain
just waiting
tumor.
for shit to pop
Yeah.
off again.
Hell yeah.
Right?
The PTSD is real.
The PTSD is real. And part of why we moved to Florida in 2018 was because I wanted to start over.
Right.
So I'm like, we got to get out of this house. We got to get out of this environment. I want to start over.
Fuck this.
So I thought I was going to end his DJing career, which is what I was attributing to his cheating. So it's like, if we move, then he's got no career now. He got to just go back to a regular fucking job and just like be a normal person. And of course, that's not what happened. As soon as he came out here, he went and fucking found his little crew, started getting back in the club, got another DUI. And I was like, oh, okay. So we're just going to like repeat this exact same fucking cycle again.
Damn.
Okay.
Was he on like other substances and stuff like that? Like,
I
was
wouldn't doubt
he
it.
doing like A little bit of
Coke, maybe. I don't fucking know.
hitting the ski slopes every once in a while. Like, God, this
Honestly,
guy.
just like if you know anything about the nightlife
Of
industry, it's
course.
just rampant drug, sex, alcohol, the whole thing. So for somebody who's already an addict, um, not the greatest place to be. And that was one of the things that I was always fighting with him about. I'm like, bro, what do you think it looks like for an alcoholic to work in a fucking club?
Damn.
Like, it's like, okay, I am morbidly obese and I work at fucking McDonald's.
Oh my
No, it's like it doesn't make sense to me, right? It's just like I work at the fucking buffet.
I'm a sex addict, but I am the
I work
bouncer at a
at a
strip club.
fucking strip club.
Yeah.
Right. It just like it
Yeah.
and it was he was always just like, oh, but it's not that. It's about like my love for music and I just love to entertain people and it's my passion and
Okay,
blah, blah,
Marshmallow.
blah. And he, you know, he would do, he'd be like, well, my father was a DJ too. So, you know, like it runs in the family. Like we're just entertainers. Like his uncle was a fucking saxophonist. So he's just like, well, I just come from a musical family and this is what
Oh,
like I'm
so
meant to do.
city.
Mm. Shut up.
Let's go.
So he would guilt trip me into being like, well, look, I let you pursue all these fucking business ventures that you have. So who are you to tell me that I can't pursue the Okay, who are you to tell me that I can't go be
Okay.
a DJ,
Yeah, that's
right? So it
insane.
was the mind games, manipulation.
And
It was
who's
a
like actually yielding results? Like, I mean, come on,
okay.
bro.
He was
Like, what do
making like
you?
$200
I
a
was
night.
gonna say, like,
Like
what is the?
nothing was coming out of this shit. He
This
was
is
playing in
insane.
like shitty fucking clubs where there would be like shootouts.
Mhm.
You know, people would get into fights. It was not like he's fucking DJing in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Like he's not Paulie D.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
well, I mean, there's levels to it though. So.
There's levels to it, but it's also like you've been doing this shit for like 10 fucking years and you're still in the same level.
Mhm.
Bro, you're just not doing it.
Well, so there's a famous quote, right? And it's the way you do some things is the way you do most things.
Yeah.
And you know, if somebody's naturally lazy, I mean, that's going to reflect in all aspects of their life, whether it's their credit, legal issues, effort in relationships, stuff like that. So.
Yeah. So he was basically repeating the same pattern of fuckboy shit here in Florida. And I found out later after getting divorced that my family knew he was cheating on me here
Oh, this is
in
good.
Florida.
This is good. This is good.
So my family came to visit in 2020 during the pandemic.
Shouts out to the family, by the way. You guys were definitely looking out.
Yeah.
So
They
good job,
came to
guys.
visit and we were all going to go out to dinner as a family, my parents, myself, my ex, my sister, all the things. And he was always the type of dude who like had no interest in being a part of my
Yeah, I
family.
didn't want to be around the family.
Like if he was at my parents' house, he
Yeah.
was on his fucking phone in the corner, not
Yeah.
talking to nobody. He was just like completely checked out. And my mom would always
That
talk to
shit
me
is
about
so
that shit.
awkward.
She was always just like, "What the fuck is wrong with him? Why is
Yeah.
he like that?" And I'm just like, "Ma, just leave him alone."
You don't
know,
know
I
what he's
just
like when it's just us.
yeah, I just wanted to just
Damn.
avoid drama, you know, because they already hated him
You
from the
get
first
tired
affair.
of defending that shit too. Like you're like, ah, man, that's just how he is.
But I
Yeah.
think, you know, part of what I notice now is like because I decided to stay with him after the first affair, I almost had to like justify not only to myself but to everybody around me that like things were okay and it was good. And
You
know,
feel
like
like you lost respect from people that you know,
Mhm.
like the fact that you stayed. They're
oh
like,
yeah,
oh my god, like she doesn't.
I'm sure a lot of people were talking shit for a while.
Right.
Yeah. Um.
And that's gonna carry on into like you know, unfortunately, like I'm probably gonna have to deal with a little bit of that, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, everybody's like the enemy at this point.
yeah.
Like everybody's guilty until proven innocent.
I already went through the ringer a little bit with your sister, but
We're saved up for another episode though.
she has her own podcast. Shout out.
Yeah, you're probably gonna get interrogated on there at some point.
Let's
but
go.
okay, so what was I saying? So my family was here to visit. We were gonna go to dinner, and we were all walking out to the car. My ex was last. My dad turned around to go to the bathroom. He came back into the house, and he noticed looking at my ex's phone. I don't know. He caught a glimpse of it, but he was talking to some other bitch.
Oh,
so
like
my dad saw that.
okay.
Okay. So what my father ended up doing without my knowledge
Hey.
was installing a fucking tracking device on this man's car.
Yo, I am
And-
so done with. Oh, I'm so done.
And he was like, I'm going to track where this motherfucker is going for the next 2 weeks, and then I'm going to out him to Jannese. And what happened was, right when he was going to out him to me, my father got into an accident and broke his
Oh,
fucking
right.
leg
That's when
and
he fell
ended
off the
up in the
ladder.
hospital.
Right, right.
And that derailed the whole shit because obviously it's
I
just that's
remember
not
this.
top of
Yeah,
mind
I
at that
remember
point.
this. Yeah.
So I found out after the fact that all of that had been going on, but apparently he had been cheating since at least 2020. And I found out in July of 2022 when the woman that he met at the club,
Oh, here we
the
go.
bartender,
Here we go.
showed up at my house at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday and was like, "Hey, I'm looking for I don't know how to tell you this, but like we've been in a relationship for 3 years. I've gotten pregnant multiple times.
What? Oh my
He
God.
told me that y'all were broken up, that y'all were separated, and I had no idea that you were still married."
Wow.
And I was like, "Okay, what's your name? Can I get your number in case I have any follow-up questions?" Oh, and one thing I did ask her is like, "How did you know to come here?" And she's like, "Well, this is where I would come whenever we would meet up."
Damn.
So I found out like she was staying at my house while I was traveling to visit my family or for work or whatever. So he had a whole last second life going on inside our home. And so I got her information, took her cell phone number down, closed the door, and then proceeded to call my mom and be like, "Hey, so I'm getting a divorce. Found out this guy's been fucking cheating again, and yeah, I'm gonna need somebody to come down here because I'm, you
I'm
know,
literally about to go batshit
yeah,
crazy.
I'm literally about to lose my fucking shit." And then I don't know what it was like a switch went off. By meeting her and like it confronting me in a way that I had never actually had it like confront me, right? Because the first affair was like a lot of hearsay,
Right.
but I never got to like meet the bitch, right? I never got
God.
to put a fucking I still don't know what
I
she looks
couldn't
like.
even imagine. I really couldn't even imagine. Like, I mean, I couldn't even imagine. Like, you see the TikTok videos or whatever, and they meet up at the dinner or whatever. But my God, I couldn't even imagine. I'd be like, hey, as a guy, if a guy came over, I'd be like, okay, dude, look, come inside. Let's literally like let's crack a beer over this shit because you're about to blow my fucking mind. Okay, so let's sit down. Let's drink a. Let's take some fucking shots, bro, because you're about to fucking crush my whole shit.
Well,
So let's just figure this out. So
yeah, so a switch went off in me as soon as I closed the door. I said, "Okay, I got to get the fuck out of here as quickly as possible." So I went to Home Depot. I changed the locks on the doors.
oh my
I
God,
went and took all of his shit and put it in the garage. And I texted him and I was like, "You have 48 hours to get your shit out of my house,
where
or it's
was
gonna
he
end up in
at
the
at the
garbage."
time?
I
Like,
don't know. I
what?
still
Where
don't
was he
know.
at when like
He was out
she
in the
pulled
streets.
up?
I don't know, but he showed up at like 5:30 p.m. that next day. So I had like 12 hours to myself to like empty the
Damn.
house
But
and
the whole 12 hours, you're like thinking he's gonna pull up at any
oh
moment.
yeah, I had my gun in my pocket at that point, like of my rope. I'm just
Shouts out to the Blick.
yeah, I'm walking around with my 9 millimeter in my pocket because I'm like, this motherfucker shows up on some shit or like trying to get back in this house, like it's gonna pop off.
I'm not
I'm
gonna lie,
about to
that
exercise Florida stand your ground law
that's
real
like
fucking quick.
some Pablo Escobar like wife energy. That shit sounds kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie. Walking around the house with a
In
nine
a
millimeter
robe.
and you're yeah, come on. This is good. Can
um
I clean the pool? Is this a bad time? I don't I'm like, hey, I just it's hot out here. I gotta take my shirt off. I have to clean the pool. I don't know. I saw the gun. I don't know, but
Yeah, so he showed up, trying to open the door. I said, "You're not welcome here. I need you to get your fucking shit out of my house. You got 48 hours." He tried to like, get fucking loud, and I was like, "I really highly fucking suggest that you don't start some shit unless you want to finish it." And then he went on his merry way after packing what he could fit into his vehicle, and I never saw him again. And I filed for divorce the next day, and it took about 3 months because we had a post-nuptial agreement, so I didn't have to pay him any alimony, he didn't get a fucking dollar out of my pocket, and, yeah, never to be seen again.
yeah. All right. So, first relationship. Um, I'm 16. She's 14. I grew up in a small little country town, so I've got my little pickup truck, and I'm bagging groceries at Publix, and the whole shebang. But anyways, we just kind of like we took our time with being together. We got together. We were each other's first, stuff
Did
like
you
that.
guys meet
So
in school?
yeah, yeah, we met
Okay.
in school. Sorry. Yeah, we met in school, and she was a cheerleader. I was playing football, blah blah blah, and yeah, we just kind of like grew together, and then fast forward, like 2 years, we're doing the prom thing, all that stuff, and then I graduate. She still has a year left, and it was actually like a year and a half. She was no, no, it was a year. Sorry. So, anyways, so she had a year left, and it was I was still in the house with my dad and my stepmom. So I I was kind of like fizzling out with that whole thing. Kind of like I was butting heads with my dad at this point. There's two roosters in the hen house, as they would say. And so it kind of grew out of like me helping my dad to like, I don't know, there was like a sense of like a little bit of a sense of like a rivalry a little bit. And it wasn't really on my side, but I felt it from him, but it was the same energy I kind of felt throughout my childhood that I could just tell. I could tell that I could tell when she was in his ear about something, my stepmom, right? So I could tell like when her influence was like heavier than other times, just based on how he would act towards me and stuff like that. So I could tell that it was like, I graduated high school, it's time for him to go or whatever. So moved to Florida, and we tried it for a few months, stuff like that, but it just wasn't going to work out.
Yeah,
So
so you guys attempted the long distance thing just to see if
as
it would work.
kids, yeah,
And so she stayed in North Carolina and you were in Florida.
yeah,
Okay.
right,
How long after you moved did it fizzle out?
like 4 months,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I feel like is a long time for like kids.
Mhm.
That's a while.
How did that conversation go? Like, who decided?
Oh shit, I don't even remember. Yeah, I don't remember. I think that it was probably more on my side, just based on the track record and stuff. And I had gone back home a couple of times since that, and she was always like there, like a house party or something. She was always there to try to like rekindle stuff or whatever. So I guess I would say it was on my side. So next, fast forward, I mean, break up with that. I'm like 18, majority of 18, coming into 19, and then 19 to 20, I'm single, just trying to figure out what I'm going to do in Florida, bouncing around from restaurant jobs to whatever. I'm working at O'Reilly's, like who knows. Um, then get with a coworker, and that turns out to be my second ex, and we were actually together for 20 to 27. So I mean, it was better. It was more like 6.5 years. Better on 7, but yeah, I mean, we got together and got our first apartment together. She always maintained like jobs with like insurance companies and stuff like that. She could talk on the phone and stuff like that. So, and I was more of like the grunt work. I was landscaping company, just trying to figure out what I was going to do. Pool construction, roofing, whatever was paying the most at the time. And then, I started my business, and I had that for like 5 years. Right. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I started that like a year and a half, coming up on 2 years. I guess we'll call it 2 years. But yeah, started doing that. I was kind of figuring out my way. I was going to do like a lawn care thing, and then I got into what I ended up doing. But um, yeah, I was doing like it started off doing pressure washing, but then I got into doing like roof cleaning, roof restoration, and like sealers and stuff like that. Mainly roofs was my niche, just because everybody has a pressure washer. So, and I was trying to get commercial accounts and all that stuff. So yeah, did that. And while I was doing the business and whatnot with while I was with her, I kept trying to get her to kind of join into the business with me. I wanted her to be a partner in that. I wanted to like kind of share that. I saw that with my dad and my stepmom. They built the business. The company that they have now is they built that literally in our garage, just like Apple or whatever. So I kind of saw that for myself. I've always, I had a moving business in high school. I bought and sold dirt bikes and stuff in high school as well. I've always done stuff on the side and, built trucks and sold them on the side, stuff like that. So I've always kind of dabbled into that stuff. But yeah, she just didn't really she grew up in an apartment. She grew up a lot different than I did. So she didn't really have the business aptitude, and that's okay. I wasn't the type to force it. I'm not the type to force anything on anybody. I wasn't raised that way. My dad always let me find my way, like what I was going to be passionate about. So it just wasn't there with her, and I think that kind of added to the separation of like where we ended up ultimately was we've been together for X amount of time. Naturally we should either have a child or get married, and I remember like the marriage thing came up first, and I'm like, well, I don't really haven't even thought about that, and she was very offended, which I guess makes sense, but it was one of those things. I just wasn't really ready for it. So
How long into the relationship did that conversation come up?
4 years.
Okay. And it was just never a thought for you to like marry.
I actually had some thoughts. I had
Okay.
had some thoughts of like, but they were thoughts of like, I knew she was going to ask, but not her personally. I just knew that our time frame and like what we were doing, and because we were living this adult life, we weren't like going out and stuff. I knew that that was like the natural progression of things.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted that too, but like I was talking to you earlier, it's more of like I was in money mode, so I was trying to build the business, and then I always pictured us doing that later. Like
Okay.
all
So
I
like you wanted to establish your foundation, your career, and
Yeah.
then like then you could be the family man.
Yeah, I thought that would come later.
Can I ask why you felt like you couldn't do both?
Um money.
Mm,
Money.
mhm.
If I was making my goal every month and stuff like that, then it would have been a different story. But and I had a deep conversation with my father about that, and he was like, "Don't ever let money be the reason that you don't have kids, because there's programs and blah blah blah." And he's like, you don't ever have to be too proud or whatever to take that help. So don't rush it, babe.
Okay. All right. So y'all break up because you're just not aligned on your life priorities. She wants to get married, have a baby, do the thing. She's like, I've invested 6.5 years in this shit. And you're just like, whatever, bro. You don't want to fucking do this. So that was the beginning of the end.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. And so like what was the final like straw that broke the camel's back?
The final straw was I got rid of the business. That thing kind of came to an end on its own. And then we relocated. And when we relocated, I was gonna take a year off and just kind of figure out what I wanted to do next. I mean, during that year, I'm still buying and flipping vehicles and stuff like that. So, but I don't know. It just got to a point where I think that we had just grown into two separate people. Like we were kids when we got together, and then we grew into young adults, and like what we were actually kind of like we were finding our passions and what drives us and what turns us on like in life and stuff like that. So we just weren't really on the same page. Like, and her family heritage and stuff like that, she was Serbian and Bosnian, so they're from a very different tradition than what I was willing to embrace. I had a few conversations with her, the men in her family and stuff like that at family, weddings and stuff like that, and I just had to let them know like I don't I don't have any interest in like becoming Muslim, and like I'm not gonna be that. Like, so if her and I are gonna be together, she's like gonna be like an American wife. It's not gonna be like a Muslim thing. So I think a lot of that kind of boiled down to why we just separated. It was very cordial. There was no name calling or anything like that. I mean, we're not in contact at all, and
But there
we
was
haven't
something
been.
that happened.
Huh?
There was something that happened.
Yeah, there was an incident. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
You don't want to get into it?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I've always been the type to like, let folks go out and do what they want to do, and and she had a sister. She has a sister, I guess I should say. And when we relocated closer to the sister, and they she wanted to go out and stuff like that, and that was fine. I went out with them several times, but there was a lot of times I just wasn't really in it, and but I had full faith and confidence and trust in everything that was going on. So, and I knew my woman inside and out too. So, anyways, there was one night, the dogs whining, and it's like, I don't know. I guess it's like, I don't know. Fuck, I feel like it's like 4 o'clock in the morning or something, 4 or 5. And I noticed that she's not home, right? So I'm calling, whatever, nothing. All right, fine. I go out to the parking lot in the apartment complex. There's nothing out there. Okay. So whatever. It is what it is.
You're like freaking out. I'd be like fucking
No, I'm not freaking out.
wilding.
I'm not freaking out just because, like, she was with her sister. Her
Okay.
sister lives with her dad. Like, I literally, her dad's apartment's like right around the corner. It's like, I'm not even, it's not even a thought. And she's not even that type of girl anyway. So, anyways, long story short, she comes home, heels in hand, all that stuff. And everything's fine. And later on that day, when she wakes up, stuff like that, she's just on her phone a lot more, and anyway, she would smoke cigarettes, and she went outside on the patio to smoke a cigarette. And I didn't know the passcode to her phone like literally the entire time we were together, so I had no idea. And I'm going into the room to take a shower, and the window to the patio is through the master bedroom, which is where the shower is, right? So I see her out there, and she's like texting, and so I go over to the window just to like look over and see, and I see like it's this unsaved number, and I can see like the emojis and stuff. I didn't really have much time to. I didn't. I just looked at it, I already knew. Like my heart sank. I already had a feeling. I was like, oh shit, I know what that is. Fast forward later on into the day, and oh, wait, sorry. While I was there at the window, I actually got to see the passcode, right? And it was her birthday. So, okay, fine. Fast forward into the night. She, we go out to lunch together, all the stuff, everything's fine. And then she goes to take a shower, and her phone's on the counter on the charger. And I had to. I went over there, I opened it up, and it opened up right on the messages, right there on this guy's thing. And I went back to see how far it was, and it was like they'd been texting for like 10 hours, like not even.
So they met that
They met
night.
that night. They met that night. And but nothing in the conversation led me to believe that they stayed together or anything like that. Um
But there was some
oh yeah,
flirtation, some intent.
he was aware of me, and
Oh.
he was already into the stage of like giving her, he was already asking questions about what I wasn't giving her, and then he was
Oh.
feeding into what I wasn't giving her. He
God.
was like, he doesn't know what he has, blah blah blah, like all this shit. And I'm like,
Oh
yeah, but bro, like
wow.
you haven't been here for 6 years. So it goes back to what I said earlier in the episode. There's always
Jesus.
somebody that's tired of it, right? So
Mm,
I mean, I was the guy that's like, bro, you go ahead. Like you
yeah.
don't even know. Like
Mhm.
you don't know what this turns into.
Wow.
So
And so you confront her after you go into the phone.
yeah, she gets out of the shower, and I try to hold it down, but I'm such an emotional guy, right? And like I wear my emotions is what I mean by that. And so she's like, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And so I'm just like, man, like this. It's kind of fucked up. I kind of said it with like a smirk on my face a little bit because I'm like, man, it's like I even told her. I remember like literally like it was yesterday. I was like, you're not even good at you're not even good at cheating. Like I told her, I was like, you're not even good at it. Like you're not even good at it. So, and she's like, I'll block him down. Da, da, da. I'm like, that's fine. You do whatever you want to do, but just the fact that we've been through so much and that we've gotten to this point now should let you know that we just need to separate right now. And she fought for a few days, and then after a few, I was like sleeping on the couch and shit. I'm like, no, I'm gonna get my own place. And after a few days, like she was coming home and she was fine. She was like, okay. She was like, everything was cordial. It was like not as awkward it was as it would sound. It
Mhm.
was very cordial. It was like very peaceful,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, like you can have all the furniture and the dog and everything. It's fine. I just want to like restart on my own.
Mm,
And so yeah, it was very cordial. It was very peaceful.
okay.
As crazy as it sounds, but it really
Yeah.
was, honestly. I
I
think
mean,
she
I
would say
think
the same thing. I mean, I don't know.
I think it just sounds like you already knew you like you saw the writing on the wall
Yeah,
and it
you
was just
checked
like
out.
you just needed the little final push to just be like, "Oh yeah, this is like really done."
I know they have like a top 3 reasons on why people cheat, and one of the top 3 reasons is people cheat to get out of a relationship.
Yeah, of course.
So they find, and you don't ever want to be that person. Just like you don't want to be the rebound, you don't want to be the person that gets used to get someone out of their relationship, because they're
Hmm.
not ever going to want to be with you ever.
Yeah.
You're
I
literally the
was
scapegoat.
yeah. I was watching a Instagram reel today that says that the majority of men file for divorce once they found another woman
Oh,
versus like the majority of women file for
to
divorce to
like,
get away from the
yeah, to
man and just be
find
alone.
themselves. Yeah,
Right. So I think it's just
hell
like
yeah.
human nature where like people separate for different reasons and men tend to find a replacement whereas women tend to pursue peace.
I remember that. Like, I remember that. In that like little 4 to 5 day gap of like me like being cold turkey, and then her like kind of fighting for it, I went and I got a new phone and a new phone number and all that stuff, right? And she comes home and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like setting up the phone. I'm like, "This is my new phone or whatever." She was like, she just got so quiet,
Mm.
right? And then that's like, that was like the turning point that she accepted it. Like, because I was already sleeping on the couch, I wasn't even doing it, right?
Mhm.
And then I went off and did that whatever, and like that's when she was just like,
He's
okay,
serious
that's what
about
this
separating
is. Yeah,
himself.
like that, and this is what it is. And like,
Yeah.
we've never tried to contact, nothing crazy at
Yeah.
all.
Hmm.
So I guess now we have to get on number three.
Okay, yeah. So what's the time span between when y'all break up and you're in this new now COVID relationship as you call it?
7 months? No. So we're talking 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 months.
All right. So you get back in the dating game,
Mhm.
your dating apps, doing
Right
all that
before
shit.
COVID. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Okay. So tell me. Talk to me. What
Oh,
happened?
oh shit. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm, doing my thing. I got my little 1 bedroom apartment, and, taking myself to the beach a lot and whatever. And then I'm doing the dating app thing just because I didn't really have a big social network, big social circle. I didn't really have anybody to go out with. I actually even contemplated, and I think some guys will relate to this, but I've even contemplated, like, at the time, I contemplated like going on like Bumble for friends,
Hmm.
because they have the friends, or they have like the,
Yeah.
the business thing or whatever. And I was like, let me just see. And I played with it a little bit, but I felt like it was too sketchy for me to, I won't even get into it, but it
Yeah.
just felt very, very sketchy.
Yeah.
So anyways, but yeah, and then so COVID happens, and everything gets shut down. I get furloughed from my job, and the only thing that's, I mean, everything's shut down. The only thing that's open is like literally the pool at our complex. And the deal with the pool at our complex is that you had to reach out to the office and reserve like an hour at a time, and they had like only 7 people or whatever. And a lot of people had already left, but um, yeah, she was there one day, and we just kind of hit it off and kind of started chatting it up, and then ended up, the fact that she lived in my apartment complex, and she was, I mean, essentially my neighbor. I mean, walking distance in a in a complex. I mean, it's like, anybody can just pull up at any time. It's kind of crazy. So it's like it was almost like,
A relationship of convenience.
yeah, and that relationship was crazy because like you are staying at each other's place all the time, stuff like that. So it's like you guys are basically living with each other, especially because everything was shut down too. So it's like,
So do you think that the fact that the pandemic was going on like accelerated how close y'all got in like
yeah, and
okay.
she had gotten out of like a 15-year relationship,
Okay.
right? But like like on my same timeline.
She was older than you.
Yeah, she was older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
How soon after meeting did you guys move in together?
Um. Damn, I want to say it was less than a year,
Okay.
but more than 8 months.
Okay.
So somewhere in that gap.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in that gap.
Okay. So compared to like the previous relationship,
And that
how is
was,
this different?
sorry. So,
Yeah.
but that was based on, we had these two apartments, but we were basically spending all of our time in one apartment. Um, and stimulus checks and all that stuff. It was more of like, well, we're already doing this, and we didn't know how long the shit was going to last, anyways. So it's like, you know, let's just put our shit together. And the apartments were already kind of like put our rent on hold and everything, anyways, too. So it was like, well, you're making like 3,500 a month on yours, and I'm doing the same thing. I mean, that's fucking 7 grand a month between the two of us. So, I mean, that was my thought on it.
So would you say it's fair to say that like part of it was out of financial for desire for more financial stability?
I guess. I mean, there wasn't really much financial stability that needed to be gained from it, just because everything was like on hold anyways, you know. But it was just more of like w- her apartment was pretty much empty all the time. Like, you know, we just weren't ever over there. Like, go over there and get clothes and shit, you know. And it's like just sitting over there. And I was just like, one day I'm just like, man, you might as well just get rid of that shit. After like 3 months of paying for the rent on it, and like we never really were like sleeping over there. Would have like make a point to like go over there, like, oh, let's go spend the night at your apartment tonight. Like that's cringy.
Well, how long were y'all in the honeymoon phase, and like what was the first red flag that came up for you?
Man, the first red flag was when I was sitting on her patio and her ex, the 15-year relationship ex, I guess he was still fighting for her on the side. And, you know, unbeknownst to me, of course, but I'm sitting on the patio and I see this guy walking around. I mean, there's like this, it's hard to explain for the listeners, but I could see this guy walking for, you know, maybe 5 minutes around this track, around this pond that the patio can see. And I'm like, I could just tell the way he kept looking over at the patio. I'm like, this guy, you know how I am
Yeah,
very
you're
aware.
very observant
So I could
about
see this guy
people.
keep looking over there. I could just feel his energy. And I asked her a couple times, and um, I'm like, do you know this guy? She's like, no, I don't know this guy or whatever. And
How soon was this into the relationship?
fuck, I mean, this must have been 3 months.
So y'all were official at that point.
No, we weren't official for,
Okay.
man, like maybe 6 to 8 months into the relationship, you know.
Okay. So you're dating and her ex shows up.
Yeah, he pulls up on the patio and he's talking to her and everything, and I had to like kind of ask him if he was the ex and whatever. So, anyways, long story short, that was the first thing. And then once I met her family and I saw how much domestic was going on within the family, you know, the mom and dad have been together since they were kids, and you know, he'd been to prison, and
There was a lot of toxic
a
family
lot of toxic
dynamics.
stuff. You know, the she had a sister and a brother, and the brother had fought the dad multiple times. I've actually seen it there, like at a
Wow.
family function.
Super healthy.
Yeah,
They,
too much liquor going around, you
yeah.
know, shit like that. Next thing you know, shit starts getting brought up, and next thing you know, they're bumping chest. It's insane. The sister would get in there too. The sister had fought, you know, her baby daddy a bunch of times, has a bunch of domestic battery charges, and they've been her and her ex have been in jail a bunch of times over fighting each other. It's just crazy. And I've never been around a family like that or anything like that. My family on both sides, or anybody I've ever been with, has been a very close, tight knit family that's been very healthy. So I had never been around, like, when I first saw like the son fight the dad, I was like, Jesus, like this is insane. Like I could never fight my dad,
Yeah.
you know, regardless if I could win or not. Like that's just not even a fucking option for me. That's insane.
I know one of the things that you've mentioned when we've talked about the relationship is like part of what attracted you to her was the fact that she was a Latina and you that was like something you wanted to pursue. Can you talk about that? Why?
Yeah, I've always kind of like sought that out. And my first like actual legitimate girlfriend that I had like in middle school, she was like one of the few Puerto Ricans in my hometown. And I didn't get with her because of that. It just happened to work out that way. But I got to meet her mom and everything. And it was like, I don't know, like that kind of, I've always been very close to my Puerto Rican side. And then that kind of gave me a glimpse into what it would be like to be with somebody that was from that. And then being from a small town where I was from, there was like such a rare thing. Um, and then obviously when I got to Florida, I was just like, you know, it's Latino or bust, like Latina, not Latina, Latina, but yeah, Latina or bust. And I don't know, it's just something about the way that they love and the way that they curate their love, you know, like and the way that they show it too. It's more of, I don't know, it's just something that I'm attracted to. I don't know if it's genetic or what it is, but um it's always something I've leaned into. It's always something I've sought out. You know, it's always been something I've been attracted to. That's what turns me on the most. You know, all women are pretty. All demographics are gorgeous. You know, It doesn't matter what shape or color. I mean, I see beautiful women all the time, you know. But for me, like what really kind of gets me with that. So I guess that's what kind of like gave me so much leeway and patience with her and let her kind of do what she did to me and have so much tolerance for it was just based on the fact that like maybe this is kind of like what this is, you know.
Okay.
I don't
So
know.
you were like, maybe this is just what being with a Latina looks like.
Yeah, I mean,
Families
you
fight
hear
each
the
other and
stories,
people
you
go to
know.
prison. I'll tell you right now,
Oh, she'll
none of that
cut
shit
you.
goes on in my family.
Oh,
Okay.
she'll cut you.
Yeah, that I've never witnessed that level of fucking stereotypical toxicity with my own family and extended family. Yeah, we've got our, issues, and but that's not typical behavior for it shouldn't be typical behavior for any
Yeah, that's
fucking group.
city hood rat behavior.
Yeah, that shit's wild. And
They were very
okay,
nice people, but just
got a lot of
my
issues it
God.
sounds like.
Yeah, they were very nice, very hospitable. Like they were always very loving to me. And I would never had anybody try to like fight me or come towards me or anything. I always felt like I was part of the family. But
Yeah,
when shit popped off, you're just like, holy fuck.
let me stay out the
I don't
way.
know if I want to be part of this.
So, okay, so you see that first like red flag of like, oh wow, her family's toxic as fuck, but that's not enough to turn you off. So, why? And then what, what else did you discover?
Yeah. So she was an alcoholic as well. And that based on that and with the COVID and stuff like that, I mean, obviously throughout my 20, I mean, not obviously, but throughout my 20s, doing the business and stuff like that, I never was a partier. I never was like a drinker or anything like that. And then COVID hit. Obviously, I'm kind of fresh into being single. I'm like, all right, I'm kind of getting into drinking a little bit. And I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much, but at the end of the day, when we would drink together past a certain point, that's when a certain side of her would come out. And that certain side of her did not like the passive version that I would become when I would get drunk, right? I would be like, I'm not really trying to, you know, yeah, I'd rather just kind of chill and like listen to music or something like that. I don't really want to get all worked up or whatever, but she was very into the drama and stuff like that. So I don't know. But there
Was
was
there underlying conditions that were
for
potentially contributing to this
what?
for her?
Like things I was doing?
No. Wasn't she bipolar?
Oh no, she dealt with like insane like depression and anxiety and she was
Okay.
on like Klonopin and stuff like
So
that.
she was also battling mental health issues while drinking and being on meds.
Yeah, well, she would drink while on the meds. That
Oh,
was like the
Jesus.
whole thing. That
Okay.
was like the whole thing. It was like I get this like little Klonopin, drink a couple of glasses of wine, sometimes a bottle or two, and then she'd be like blackout. You could see like the 1,000-yard gaze in her face. She's like you could tell she's spaced out. And then like the next day, she wouldn't remember anything either. So
How far into the relationship did you find out that she was like on medication for anxiety and depression?
once we moved in,
Okay. And how did you find out? Did you just
um,
discover the pills or did
yeah,
she tell you?
yeah, there was a bag, like a Publix bag, and it had like a dozen of these prescription bottles in it of all these Klonopins in there. And I'm like, what the? And a lot of it was like expired and stuff too. And I'm like, what's going on with this? She's like, well, that's what they give me, but I don't really take it. And she's like, when I take it, it's, she's only taking it for a good time. She wasn't taking it like every day like she was supposed to, or
Mm,
whatever the case might have been. She was taking it for like when she went out, she's like
oh,
taking it to drink on it.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say she had substance abuse issues.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That wasn't a red flag.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into my patience at this point, right? Like we're getting into my thing of like, well, and I mean, she was a good person though. Like I know these labels and stuff like that kind of make her sound like a piece of shit, but at the time, I mean, she was very nice. She was very sweet. We had a good time, and
Yeah.
it was fun. So it wasn't like, and none of it was really affecting me at this point.
Mm,
So it was like, okay, this is just kind of like what comes
hmm.
with it. And up until this point, she's kind of managed it pretty well. So I don't know. I can't really throw any judgment or like let it change the taste of my mouth, you
Yeah.
know?
Okay, so you said once she was like past a certain point, then shit would go left. What did that actually look like?
She would just like uh, she would just like accuse me of like getting attention or like I had a lot of neighbors at my apartment and I would let people into my place and we would have, we would hang out and whatever. And she would get upset about that, whether it was male or female. And she'd be like, man, why don't you just let anybody in your house? Like she was very possessive already, didn't really want people to have my attention. So, um,
So she was trying to isolate you.
yeah, I think
Mhm,
so.
mhm.
Yeah. And I mean,
And
she
you
did,
were like, no.
no, yeah, I really wasn't really into that. I kind of saw that at the beginning a little bit, but I just kind of fought past that because I felt like I knew she didn't really have a friend circle, so maybe that she was just kind of like,
Insecure.
yeah, something like that. And I'd try to get her plugged in or whatever. But I had a few of my neighbors and friends like would be like, "Why are you like with this girl? Like she's kind of crazy or whatever." I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even see that side. So
Yeah. Okay. So things continue to progress.
mhm.
What's the next like, oh fuck situation?
Oh man. Um, well, she had been around my family a few times, and I her and she got drunk and she had like a crazy conversation with my mother one time, and
Ooh,
yeah, and it was a lot of like weird false accusations and stuff like that, enough to the point where my mom had to like ask me about it and be like, this doesn't even like really sound like you. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening or whatever, but and she had already given me a few warnings before, and she had already
who's she?
my mom.
That she was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, she was kind of just like she wasn't very flagrant about it, just because she didn't really want. I guess she didn't know how I would handle,
Mm,
her kind of like bashing the person I'm with, right?
yeah, I think parents always have a hesitation about like saying stuff because they are afraid that like you're gonna pick this person over
Right,
them, and it's just like, how do you deal with that, right? When there's like love on both sides.
right. So, but anyways, yeah. I mean, there was definitely a few things, but that was probably the hardest thing for me. And then I started to mentally check out, emotionally check out at that point, and
Just because your mom was like
it was just
in your
more of like just the person that she would become, and I started to see that person come out
more and
a
more.
lot easier. Yeah,
Mm,
that shit would just come out. I would come home from work and she was already there, and I'm like, damn, man, like you've only been home for 2 hours without me, and you're already here. Like I don't even get to talk to you.
yeah,
Like
you're
you're
already like just drunk out of your mind and like
yeah,
on
man.
your
Like
shit.
if you want to do that, like let's get there together. Like
Would
don't.
she get violent?
She got violent a couple of times, but it was when she was super gone. I
Okay.
mean, like trying to like get her in the Uber to like come home or something like while we're out. And that's when she would be like, get your fucking hands off of me or whatever, like be freaking out and shit like that. So, um, but I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, she was very toxic in a lot of ways, and it was a lesson that I learned. I mean, it's one of those L's that you have to take on the chin, and it's also an experience you have to go through. You know what I mean? It's not like I wasted 10 years or 15 years on this person to figure out these things. It was only 2.5 years, so I at least I got to figure it out short, quick, and sweet. I guess. I don't
I
know.
wanna ask before like, do you want to go into like why y'all broke up?
No, not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can we wrap the up that story though? I think let's at least put a bow on it. Like, I just ended up getting to a place where like I couldn't tolerate her abusive behavior anymore, and so I had to just walk away. And
Right.
so
I could do that.
okay. So what was the final straw for you?
Yeah, the final straw, like the pivot point for me was just the pattern of the toxicity, and
Just like verbal abuse and
verbal abuse, but
confrontation.
and that, and just like painting me into somebody that I wasn't,
Yeah.
like, and it sucked for me because I never wanted to have to defend myself over some false accusations or whatever, and it was really crazy because she was so back and forth that, like, going to bed, she would be in this zone, and then in the morning I would wake up with like this anxiety and like ready to defend myself again, and she'd be like, hey, you want breakfast or whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you don't fucking remember. I
So one
mean,
minute you're like a piece of shit who's like treating her like shit and you're the devil, and then the next moment it's like that's definitely when we think about like the pattern of narcissism, it's almost like she was it's almost sounds like gaslighting,
well,
right? Where
she's
she's like,
drinking on those
this never
pills.
happened. I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that, or like whatever. And obviously the fact that she's like under the influence of shit doesn't help because it's
Mm-mm.
like she legitimately doesn't remember,
No.
but you experience what you experience. And it's almost just like you're probably looking at her like, who the fuck are you? And like, where am I?
I mean, there was so many situations. I mean, I had to film her a few times. Yeah, just
Wow.
to be able to like show her like what she was doing, So like the
Damn.
next day I had to be like, look, like you need to see what we were having a conversation about. And I would like set my phone up and I'd be like literally talking to my phone, like, you see, I'm setting this up. It's 12:21. Da da da. Let's see. And then she'd be just over there rambling around and like kind of like bobbing and weaving on the couch and just faded, and you're
Hmm.
just like, oh, and then she would like get like 30 seconds of the video and like turn that shit off. I don't want to see that
Wow.
shit. I mean, I wouldn't want to see it either.
Yeah.
So it's
But it's
like,
almost like you needed that to like just confirm that you're not crazy,
I
that you're like actually experiencing this.
yeah, I'm tripping. Yeah, at the point, I'm like, damn, am I doing things that I don't know what am I doing? I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm not calling her fat. I don't know what the fuck did I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm doing.
So you decide like, okay, I'm done. And what, you move out or like how does this whole thing end?
So she moves in with her parents,
Okay.
and I have to maintain the apartment. Obviously, it's more than I can afford, by myself and stuff like that. So I had to kind of cycle myself out of the lease. But you know, um, man, that was a whole experience in itself too, because she still had a key to the apartment, so she
Mm.
would pull up random times, and
Wait, so y'all broke up like a couple months before
oh, several months.
you actually moved out?
Yeah,
Well, but she left and you were still in the
yeah,
apartment,
she left with like some of her stuff.
and she would roll up just randomly, even
Yeah,
though like y'all weren't together.
yeah, like all the furniture and stuff like that was mine, but like
Mhm.
she had like clothes and like doodads or whatever.
So when she showed up at your apartment, like what was the intention? She was trying to get back together?
Oh man, she'd be showing up for all kinds of shit. She's showing up to see if I got stuff at the house. Like if I got people at the house, she would show up just to like, I mean, I
To
guess
see if
like
you're cheating, even though you're not together?
she was doing that, but even though we weren't together, she was just like trying to show up and just trying to like ruin it. Like she would
Oh,
she would just try to be like, I can't wait to catch you with a bitch here because I'm gonna
oh
tell
my
I'm gonna tell that you still fucking love me, all this shit or whatever. So I was like, obviously I can't do that. And then she'd be showing up, trying to
reconcile.
yeah, oh my god, all the time, constantly. I fucking love you. Like, let's fucking do this shit, whatever. Da, da, da.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, my god, like this is. I don't even want it in this state. Like, I don't even know what the fuck's happening. Like you're not even. You're literally the person that's caused all this, like, because you're so intoxicated. You're literally the same person. It's almost like being possessed.
Yeah.
You're the same person that fabricated all this shit and like made me to feel like I feel, and then now you're coming back around and be like, oh my god, like
I love
I
you.
fucking miss you, like fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, this is not it.
God. Okay. So eventually you move out, you start over, you
She
download
moved.
Hinge.
She moved out. She moved out. I get out of the place. I get into where I'm at now,
Uh-huh.
and throughout that transition is yeah, I was like, let me get back in the dating pool and let me see. And it was all shouts out to my friends, honestly, like because I was like kind of turned off. I wanted a
I was gonna
temporary.
say, I'm
Yeah,
like, how the fuck did you like even give yourself permission to
I
date
wanted a
after
year
that
to
trauma?
myself. I wanted a year to myself. Like
I
I
said I
was.
was gonna wait a year, and by 6 months, I was just like, I think because the holidays rolled around, I
Yeah.
was lonely as fuck.
Yeah, I get lonely too. Like honestly, it doesn't even have anything to do with the nut. Like I'm cool with Pornhub. I'm fine. Like I really don't, but it's like I need
The
I
companionship.
need a heartbeat. I need to
Hmm.
smell on some skin.
Y'all, when you see us together, you see he just randomly comes up to me and fucking smells me. I'm just like,
Mm,
what is this?
it's
I'm
the
here for it.
it's so good. There's something about it.
So it's funny because we broke up with our respective exes like around the same time. And
What if they were together?
God, they fucking deserve each other. They'd be so perfect for each other, it
I
sounds
was
like.
convinced that we live in a matrix.
Yeah. Yeah. I look, we wish them the best and hope that they learn from their shit. But at the end of the day, I'm like, been there, done that, move on.
Yeah,
No one
I
cares.
certainly hope that you're not focused on your phone texting one day and walk out in front of a bus. I don't want you to do that. Please don't do that.
No.
Take your eyes off that phone.
Yeah, we'll pray for you.
Take your eyes off that phone.
And yeah, okay. So I think it's fair to say that we've had our fair share of toxic and just like not healthy relationships, not necessarily like always, super traumatic, but definitely not the greatest, right? And I think that's probably the reason why we ended up finding each other, because at that point we had enough experience of like what we didn't want that we started to think about like what we did.
What are your top 3 toxic traits from your past relationships that you carried into our relationship
Oh
that you
God.
looked for like against though? You know what I mean?
Oh, so like what are the 3 like red flags that I was like, I'm not entertaining this again?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, can't be a narcissist.
Okay.
Second of all, I don't want him having like any fucking attachment to the nightlife, like this, clubbing and none
Uh-huh.
of that shit. And third, um, I need him to be like very emotionally intelligent, like able to communicate. That was my thing. I think if I had to boil it down to one word, I'm like, I want to feel safe in my next relationship.
Mm.
And I don't even know how to like fully explain what that means because it's a feeling. Just like I was so used to being under attack. I felt like I was literally like under attack um emotionally. Like I never felt really comfortable at home. I didn't want to really be here. I got consumed with my business and work as just like a coping mechanism because I was just later realized that like I was suffering from PTSD. After the first cheating incident, I was literally just like under constant um attack emotionally, like just with my thoughts and the
Even
paranoia, just waiting
self-inflicted,
for
yeah.
shit to happen. My blood pressure was chronically high. Like my doctors were ready to put me on meds. I gained like 60 pounds from like drinking and just like overeating and looking for whatever way I could fucking cope with just like the stress. Um, so one thing that I noticed after we started dating in earnest is that I felt, yes, I felt exhausted for the first couple of weeks. And I later came to understand that like that was my body's way of coming out of that hyper
Like
vigilance
exhuming
mode.
that shit.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just like I got to sit down and like
Y'all,
shut down.
she almost self-sabotaged her way out of this entire thing. She literally almost let that demon win.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in the next episode.
Yes,
But
we are.
um yeah, I just knew I needed to feel safe.
I got you.
And I do.
Ooh, okay.
What about you? Did you have like a list of like she must fit this box next time or she can't be this?
Um, I guess I did, but like kind of like subconsciously, right?
Okay.
So I never really like went into it like my biggest things were like energy and vibe, right? I wanted the conversation to be there. I wanted it to be effortless. I wanted the person I ended up with to be my best friend.
Mhm.
So
You never experienced that in the past or
um only in the sense of the fact that that's who I spent most of my time with.
okay.
You know what I mean?
So it was like you're the default option, not that like
Yeah.
you're actually a very intellectually stimulating person and I want to be around you just for the sake
Yeah,
of
like I'm not just sending you random fucking like
memes.
memes and shit. Yeah, it's not
We're
even
having like real
we're not
conversations.
connecting on that shit, you know.
Yeah.
So
I remember when like we first met. I think that's the thing that stood out to both of us. It's just like how easily we were able to just talk like we knew each other already. And like we had very emotionally in-depth conversations like very early on, like 5 a.m. fucking phone calls, like,
Oh my god.
But yeah, I remember,
Those are the
just
5
like,
a.m. shenanigans.
yeah, it's just like, we get on the phone at midnight, we're talking till 5 o'clock in the morning, we're just having like all kinds of conversations about life and our thoughts and family and our history and fucking goals in life. And I was just like, why does this feel so different?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess. Excuse me. So emotionally stable would be
A
my
must.
yeah, like my number one. Sorry. So my number one would be emotionally stable, and I know that's a very broad term, but it just means like you are who you are, no matter like what you're going through. I need to be able to see. I need to be able to know that you're your core person. Right. I need to be able to know who I'm talking to no matter what's going on. If there's a mass shooter in the bank, I need to be able to look at you in your eyes and be like, look, let me talk to you and let you comprehend like what's happening right now, because we need to be able to have this connection and to be able to know what I'm thinking, what I'm going to do, what I need you to do, whatever, and vice versa.
Well, when I hear emotionally stable, I also think of just like someone who's actually capable of communicating their emotions in a way that's not conflict or angry or
And
like,
reciprocating.
yeah, yeah. It's just like, hey, I'm upset. This is why. This is what I need from you.
Right.
And not like, motherfucker, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah.
So emotionally available, right? And not possessive, like not overly possessive. I mean, everybody wants to feel cared for and stuff like that. And then I think the third thing would just be, I don't know what the term would be, but like the people I've been with have always tried to rush or like try to get to the end goal right away. Right. And it's like, I wish that they would just understand that if they have my attention and we are together, then I'm there for the long haul. So it's like you already have it. So let's just get there together
Yeah.
versus like
Why do we have to be on like an arbitrary timeline that society has dictated that you've been together X amount of time? So now this is the next step, blah, blah, blah.
yeah, and it's like, I mean, of course, like I love you to death. Let's get married, let's have babies, like whatever, but like let that shit happen, like let's not do that in such a rush, because it almost feels like they're trying to do that to like kind of like take you off the market. You
Well, I
hear
think,
guys do that all the time, like, oh, I want to get this girl pregnant. I've heard guy friends my entire life say
oh
that.
God.
Oh well, that's when you get a baby out of and all that dumb shit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
you want to bring life into this world, and then you also want to like
To use it as a fucking ball and
ruin this
chain.
woman's life too, like, and like all because of what? Because she has like a nice body.
That's a twisted
You want to
mentality
take
to
it? Like
have.
it's insane. So
I think for women, that pressure comes obviously from society, but it also comes biologically, right? Because it's just like our
hell
fucking
yeah.
biological clocks are real, and like at some point, if you're like waiting
And
10, 15 years for a man to like pop out a
you're
baby,
put here to make babies. So
well, I wouldn't say that, but like there's a
genetically,
desire for people.
genetically,
That's something that we're capable of,
yeah.
and that's something that people want to do. Shout out to you. I think that's one thing that I've always been, like, very up in the air about, so it was never a priority for me to find a partner that was, like, about that life. I think I actually have approached it like, I would love to find somebody who that's very much like a, if it happens, great, but it's not on my goals list of life, and I think that's one of the things that we connected on super early. I remember telling you that, like, and I think your direct response was like, "I fuck with you."
I do fuck with you. I think at a certain point I'm gonna have to start swinging, trying to go hard, but I think I do fuck with it. I do, but eventually I'm gonna be like, oh,
You wanna pop out a
you
baby?
never know.
You don't ever know, and Imma be, like, very vulnerable in saying this right now, but I think a big reason why I felt like that is because of who I was with. Like, this man's a trash person, so he's gonna be a trash
Never
father.
turned on that motherly thing.
No, never.
Yeah,
I was just like, "Oh god, I don't wanna be fucking tied to
I'm
this."
trying to
Like, even subconsciously, I was like,
I'm trying to tap into that energy.
I've definitely had a change of heart with
Ooh,
you.
you hear that, folks? We've
And
already
I've
tapped in.
I've told people this, and they're just like, "Bitch, what?"
Ooh, ooh. I mean, you got to look at Rao, and Rao and Rosalia.
Yeah, I mean, the right love will have you like just picturing a future, whereas the wrong love will have you fucking just surviving.
Max.
And I think that's where I'm realizing, like, oh wow, like I actually want a future with this man.
Mm,
And I'm open to whatever that looks like versus like I'm just trying to fucking survive this shit.
damn.
Hmm.
And if I ever push it to the point where you feel like you're trying to survive this, then that probably means I'm in the same boat.
Mm.
So let's have a conversation.
Yeah, let's have a conversation before that happens.
Yeah.
Because you don't get there overnight. Like that's the death by 1,000 cuts analogy, where it's just like shit piles on and piles on, and you're just like checking out. I think at least for me,
I think
because I give so many chances, but I once I reach that fucking limit, I'm done.
a big thing for us too is that we live each other's company a lot. Like we spend a lot of time together as far as like like emotionally connected time.
Yeah,
You know, we cuddle in bed, we sleep together. We
we're
spoon
always talking about
spoon
stuff.
together when we sleep. I mean, we have, pillow talk before and after sessions and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I just like talking to you. Like
yeah, that
you
pillow.
just like being with somebody, right? Like you just when you just genuinely enjoy somebody's company, like it never feels forced and it never feels like we'd run out of things to talk about.
Yeah, and it's like the most random things too.
Yeah,
And
it is the most random. And you make me fucking laugh, which is one of my love
oh
languages.
my god, I think that's the key to any woman's heart is laughter, though.
It depends. Some women I think are turned off by men who like just don't take themselves like as seriously. But I grew up in a household. My father is a fucking clown. Like,
My humor
and
is like at other people's expense, though.
oh, so was
Like
my
so
dad's.
bad.
My dad was always just like social
I
commentaries,
just
like
don't take you
so funny.
serious.
And
It's like, okay, so let me just. You look like Voldemort. Like, I don't know what else to say. But the fact that it's funny means that it's true.
yeah, you and my dad have very similar styles of comedy. And I think that's one of the things I find endearing about you because it's just like you encourage me not to take myself so seriously too. And I think for a long time, I was just always just like, just being too fucking rigid. And I think you've helped me become more playful.
Man, I love that.
Hmm.
I love you.
I love you.
Mm,
Oh my gosh.
okay,
Did we just record another episode?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
we are
So
we are a couple days late, but that's just I have a
it's
hectic.
life.
I have a very hectic work schedule. I work 12-hour shifts. It's insane.
And you're running an Airbnb business.
Shouts out to you.
And you're just like doing a whole lot of shit. We're doing a whole lot of shit in life. We're,
Facts.
starting this new project and we appreciate all the awesome feedback that we've gotten from you guys on our first episode. What I want y'all to do
So
because
many like DMs and shit. Like
yeah,
shouts out to you
we
guys
need
for actually doing that. Like
we
that, I
need
fuck with
more
that.
DMs. Shout out to you guys who've been sending us. I've gotten text messages, I've gotten DMs. We definitely want to like talk about your relationship stuff on the show too, because it's one thing for us to dive into our own story, but I think part of what is so powerful about podcasting is the community that you build around it, and the more that we can learn from each other's lessons, I think the more value that you'll get out of this show. So definitely send us an email at corazonchroniclespod@gmail.com, or you can find us, actually no, send us an email at corazonchroniclespodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram at Corazon Chronicles Pod. Make sure you follow us and make sure that you're subscribing to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Even if it's late, you'll still find out.
Hell yeah. And we're literally just getting started. So this is going to be so fun. I can't wait till we have like other couples and stuff like
Oh my
that.
God, I can't wait. Y'all, we're going to be bringing you some like crazy ass, juicy ass relationship stories like you have no idea. I'm so excited.
Oh shit. Let's go.
All right, so let's do a final takeaway. So, what do you think is the one lesson that you want folks to take away from our conversation with regards to like toxicity and relationships, anything like that? I think for me, my biggest takeaway is if you notice a pattern, you need to take a step back, right? Like if you have a pattern of behavior that you're tolerating in a relationship, it's going to require some self-reflection for you to be like, why do I continue to attract this? What is it about my personality that is bringing these people into my life? Why am I tolerating these things? And a lot of what has helped me heal is honestly like personal development work, listening to podcasts about relationships, finding out about, things like attachment style and um therapy, like talking about your fucking childhood. Like so much of that shit is tied in. And if you don't do that inner work, like you're just gonna continue to perpetuate the same shit. So take breaks, y'all. Especially if you're going through a breakup right now, you're like transitioning. Take some fucking time for yourself. I think that's always been like really productive for me. How about you?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that my keynotes out of everything that we talked about would just be like, value your past relationships, no matter how hard that is. And that's a very hard thing to do. It's very hard. Like, you heard me a couple of times throughout this episode. I was like, and there's the animosity, and like, there's like the tone. You can tell the tone changes a little bit. And that doesn't just come across, like, doesn't reflect in your voice. It reflects in the voice in your head as well, too, and how you reflect on the situation. So, it doesn't, I don't mean, look back on the relationship and glorify it or whatever, but just kind of treat it as its own entity, right? It's its own soul, it's its own living thing. And there were good parts, there were bad parts, and as it, just like any other adult would do with any other situation, jobs or whatever. Um, yeah, you learn your lessons, and you move on, and you try to better yourself for the next person, and you just hope that that other person's doing the same thing, and you guys kind of meet somewhere in the middle, and eventually that's going to be a beautiful thing, because you guys are both going to know what you've been through, you're going to know what you want, and you guys are going to do everything you can in your power to sacrifice certain things to curate that, and that's a very beautiful thing, and that's exactly what love is.
Yeah,
Welcome,
what healthy love is.
welcome to the Corazon Chronicles.
This was so much fun,
Thank
babe.
you guys so much for listening. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Make sure you tune in and make sure you share this podcast with other people that you think would get value out of it. We want as many folks listening to this as possible. So thanks for being here.
All right, guys. We will see you next week.